Hi, welcome to Re Buwe. This is an election series hosted by me, Zandile Khumalo. So, if you're undecided, like me, as who are you going to vote for on the 29th of May, this video series is definitely for you. Today, in another series, we're seated with Deputy Leader and a very profound lady over here, Nobuntu Hlazo-Webster. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us and being here with us. So, as I've mentioned, this video series is called Re Buwe, Is This Our Uhuru? Hosted by the youth, which is me, for the youth, where we basically dive into who the person behind the political party is. And you, my dear, are for Build One South Africa. So we just want to get to know who you are. Now, not a lot of people are familiar with the name. In 3 words, describe yourself to readers and watchers of SNL 24.
I'm a person who, my name is Nobuntu. I pursue Ubuntu. So one word is Ubuntu. I always want to know that, first of all, one's dignity, anybody else's dignity. If I feel like another person's dignity is compromised, it feels like mine is compromised. And when I look at my life, Ubuntu has been at the core of who I am. I love community, I love people, so Ubuntu. The second one is leader. I'm a leader, have always been, since I was a kid, since I was born. There was a time when I tried to pull back on it a bit, because it felt a bit much. But, at some point I was like, hey, this is who I am. I come into a space and I lead. It's who I am. Thirdly, I'm a maverick. Third word is maverick. I find different ways of doing things. Hence, Build One SA, we've worked to find a different way of doing things and a different way of being a political party. I'll always look for what is a different way of doing this? How can we be doing this better? What isn't working? How do we make it work?
For you, being a woman and running this race, how does it feel and what significance does it hold for you?
No, absolutely. So there aren't a lot of us, for starters. I mean, I'm not only deputy leader of the party, I'm also co-founder of the party. So that also is not something that there's a lot of. It always looks like political parties have women leadership, but I can tell you now, being a deputy leader of the party, it means I sit in rooms with leaders of parties often, and I'm often the only woman there. If there's a woman, it's maybe just one other woman, but I'm genuinely most of the time the only woman there, and that's not great. There is this sense that as a woman, you walk into a room and there's all men, and before anything, there's an assumption that you don't have anything of value to add. So you have to prove yourself in that room. So, people will look at you and you can see they're almost like undermining you until you open your mouth, and then you get a little bit of, oh, okay. There's actually something in that head, something in that, there's a brain in there. So it always feels like you always have to prove yourself the whole time. And that's difficult. Secondly, in a country that has a population of more women than men, it's important that you have the representation of women in leadership. You hear the voices of women in leadership. You have the representation of the people who are experiencing everything that's happening in society. So I'm very intentional. In our own party, what I've said is we don't have a women's league. And when we first started the party, the women in all the different structures would ask me and say, please, can we have a women's league? When are we getting a women's structure? And I'd say no. We're not having a women's league. We're not having a women's structure because I want women to lead in the mainstream leadership of the party. As soon as you create a women's structure, the women are all going to go and hide there and lead there. But I want to see women leading in the party. And so it's difficult for women to be involved because women are raising children. And the nature of this is just also consuming. But we need to see more women in leadership. We need to see that balance of leadership between a masculine kind of leadership and a feminine kind of leadership. And I am looking forward to the day where we have more women in political leadership.
Interesting. Earlier when we began, you said you're a leader and you couldn't shy away from that. We've seen you in different spaces, both in the business, both also in community spaces leading. What sort of experience do you have in running a municipality? How can people trust you in their municipalities, let's put it like that?
So I have a business one of my businesses is a consulting firm. And we've consulted on various government organizations, particularly in economic development, And so we've consulted on economic development projects at provincial level. We've consulted on economic development projects at municipal level in different municipalities. And there's a lot that I learned at that time about how municipalities are run. I learned a lot about what was wrong, because as a consultant, you come in and you're coming in to engage and to bring in interventions that are to support the various municipalities in what they should be doing in order to, in our case, develop the economy. But I've learned a lot in that sense, and I've learned a lot from the work that we did and the work that I did in consulting to those municipalities. Despite the fact that I have, that experience with regards to government and governance, it's important that what we are looking for now is the right kind of leadership. You're looking for people who are ethical and credible leaders, and people who have proven that they are good leaders. And that's what we need in this country.
Many youth or people in general have detached themselves from voting. Some don't believe in voting, some they seem guti there won't be any difference. How are you gonna, or what are you doing already to bring back that hope to people to say voting is important, this is the change that we're going to bring? What hope are you instilling in people?
That is one of the most rewarding things I found on the campaign trail, is going to different areas. So we are contesting nationally. We're contesting on the national ballot as Build One SA, and we're contesting in all the provinces. So I've been around the whole country for the past 18 months. And one of the things that's most rewarding is going into an area, going into a community. And when you get there, there's a little bit of resistance, right? Because people are tired. People are tired of politics. People are tired of politicians. But coming in and engaging people and listening to people and sharing, what our thinking is and what the solutions are that we've crafted. But also what we've done is we've called ourselves a government in working. And what we've been doing as a government in working is going into communities and already helping to work together with them to engage or to address some of the challenges. One of the biggest challenges we've seen is that of water. So we come into communities and there's no water. We'll install a borehole, or we'll work with other partners and other organizations to bring water tanks, or we will help an early childhood development center, all those kinds of things. And so coming into communities to do that kind of thing, you leave people with hope. Sometimes even just your presence and engaging with someone who actually, because I am not a politician, I'm a leader, and I've been engaged with politics in different ways, but I'm not a politician. I'm a leader in society who's decided that it's us who need to come and save ourselves, because nobody's coming to save us.
Why did you feel the need to open a new political party and do something different? Why don't just start here and fix what's happening here with the current political party?
I love that question. So we don't come into communities and leave. What we do is there are people in communities who see the need for BOSA, and they then engage BOSA, and they're part of BOSA, and then they build what we call BOSA communities. So we're not hopping in and out of communities, we're actually building BOSA communities, and the leaders that you see on our candidate list come out of communities. They are endorsed by communities. Why did we have to do something different? We had to do something different because every single political party that existed before we formed ourselves in 2022, when we looked around, we could not say that we see a political party that is truly representative of the people and that is truly the people. And the reason we saw the need is because we wanted to make sure that what we have is true democracy, in that you're taking the people's agency and you're putting that in parliament. You're actually taking the voice of people and you're putting that in parliament. What we've also said is that those same communities, if the candidate that you have sent to parliament is then, or to the provincial legislature, is then not representing you well, is then not doing what you mandated them to do, you have the right to then file a motion to withdraw that person from that position. Again, the power rests in the hands of people.
Why is it important to have youth also be in those spaces to speak our language? And how are you representing the youth?
So, first of all, our team, our professional team at Build One SA is mostly young people. And we've been intentional about that. Because, this idea that the youth are the future, etc., the youth are the now. South Africa has one of the biggest youth populations in the country. in the world. And so that means that young people have to be represented in political leaderships and in politics. And in politics. So we've been very intentional about making sure that we have young people on our teams, we have young people in our leadership structures. My own office is made up of young people. And I'm very intentional about that. I think when you look at the founders and leaders of the party, look at Mr. Maimane and myself, I mean, we're not youth. Yeah. We're over 35, yes. But we're not old. I just turned 42. Musi is 43, turning 44 this year. We're still millennials. So I think it's a younger party, yes, in that instance, in any case. So we're very intentional about the party being young because, first of all, we need to look at new ways of doing things. The very fact that we came up with a model that's different in politics speaks to the kind of vibrance that we want to have and the kind of innovation that we want to have in the party. When you look at our policies are actually quite innovative because we've worked on them with young people. And we've wanted to see that innovation. We want to see that innovation in South Africa. We want to see that innovation in how the country is governed. We want to see that innovation in how we respond to the challenges that we have in South Africa. So that's the importance of having young people. It's representation because we have, a high youth population, but also it's innovation and it's forward thinking and it's new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things.
Mr. Maimane said, with the upcoming elections, coalition will be the order of business. We've seen coalitions fail in our local communities. How are you going to fix those situations, but also not losing the essence of being Ibusa?
So what's important is that when you go into coalitions, you go into coalitions for the right reasons and with the right intent. The coalitions that have failed, you really look at them because even the very foundation of those coalitions, people are negotiating and bartering positions when they have the conversations about the coalition that they are forming. So for us, what's important is that when we come in to start a coalition, we base it on, look, here are policies which we really feel strongly about and that we want to be able to further in this coalition. The next party comes and says, so here are policies that we feel, here are areas or policies where we feel we're strong and we want to further that. And you build a coalition on that basis of here are our strengths, here are your strengths. Let's make sure that each of our strengths are represented in this coalition. And that is where we actually hold responsibility in terms of delivering on what needs to be delivered. That's what needs to be the basis upon which coalitions are formed. And that needs to be in the written agreements that sits, and that needs to be in the engagements that sit in order for coalitions to be formed. Secondly, the reason we've seen a lot of the mess that we've seen in coalitions is because there isn't a sense of, within the agreements and the frameworks, there isn't a sense of engaging on what happens when things go wrong, right? So one of the most important things to say is we see all these motions of no confidence that are being thrown around. When you go into a coalition, you need to have in your agreement under what circumstances are we able to file for a motion of no confidence so that it doesn't become pure politicking. It becomes for real reasons and that people are not delivering. So that's just an example of one of the ways to make sure that coalitions exist and even in their foundation are framed upon principles that are about delivering versus just pure politicking.
In this country, poverty and unemployment is at its highest level. What will you say has been Busa's, I can't say tangible, for lack of a better word, tangible presentations that they have shown to the youth that this is what we have, these are the opportunities that we have to give someone who has the responsibility to put bread on the table hope? What opportunities have you given to these people to say this is what we have? To give hope to you.
In our plan, we speak to skills development and making sure that we have a program for the scarce skills and in-demand skills that have a gap, there's a vacuum for in this country. And that's what's important. It's looking at, first of all, where's the world going? Where's the country going? Do we have the skills for that? And then making sure that you have programs that incentivize young people to go and get those skills, because then you're able to create jobs for those young people. Part of job creation is a lot to do with SMMEs and entrepreneurship. And young people also have to start thinking differently about jobs and thinking, okay, what skill do I need in order to be able to work for myself and create work for other people as well? We have to go in that direction, because like I say, the mainstream economy and what we have now by way of businesses is not enough to be able to absorb the levels of unemployment that we have.
And just like that, everyone, thank you for taking the time to join us. And don't forget to subscribe to SNL 24.